Hey folks, Ray, Riverbend Longbows, and tonight I'm going to show you how to build a do-it-yourself pack saw for as little as $6 to $10, and it all breaks down into itself, protects the blade, fits right in your backpack. So if you're interested, stay tuned and I'll show you how. So most everybody getting started in bushcrafting or the outdoors, they start out with a bow saw basic frame like this, which is hard to pack, it's clunky, it's got an exposed blade, dangerous, and so I'm going to show you how to build one that will break down with just scrap wood that I've had. You can get this at your hardware or lumberyard store probably for next to nothing, but it's basically a paracord, about 4 feet of 1x2 basic lumber, and I just took the blade out of the old bow saw with a couple of nuts and bolts I already had. Used thumb bolts, lock washer, and a nut, and there you go. So I'll show you how it comes apart. Let me angle the camera down here, and it's basic, no real craftsmanship mortise and tenons. I use dowels to show you how to do this easily, and this can be done without power tools. And this unwinds, and as soon as you do, you can slip your cord off of this end that I put a groove in to hold it in place. This comes apart, and then I cut a kerf in the wood, the thickness of the blade, so it can drop into that safely. Bring the other one around, do the same, lock it in there. Now you can sandwich the two together, your center tenon, wrap that baby up, and it's safe. Slide in a pack, or you can sew up a tube to put it in so it's secure in a tube sleeve, or maybe even one of those old bag chair sleeves that you've probably got laying on your porch because you threw the chair away because they're junk. Use it, cut it up, use it for a sleeve. So anyway, I'm going to take this apart and I'll show you what I did. Okay, so now I have it disassembled to kind of walk you through some steps. So now you have your blade, and this is a 24-inch blade, and you can get different length ones at the hardware or garden center, wherever. You can get a pack of these that will last you a lifetime for $5 or $6, or buy the blade sometimes for under $1. Anyway, I took a certain length of wood first, and I cut, since this is a 24-inch blade, I cut these at 12 inches each, and then I just laid the blade on there to give it a little bit of a reveal, about equal distance on the top and sides, and then marked where my hole goes. Did the exact same on here. It is best to drill your holes, whether it be 1/4 inch, 3/16, which these are about 3/16, before you saw your kerf to accept the blade, so you don't have a blowout inside the trough before you cut, or after you cut. So once you've established that, you got your holes drilled, if you have a table saw, you can actually use the blade to set the height of your table saw blade, lock it in, find center, and then saw your kerf. If you don't have a table saw, there's another way. If you have a hand saw, of course it's painstaking and more tedious, but take your hand saw, lay your blade on there, mark directly on your hand saw the depth of the blade. Now you know the depth to saw down to, and if you have a vise, you can lock it in and then saw carefully, starting at one end and working your way in down to that kerf mark. Takes a while, but it can be done. Now you want to do the same on the ends, so the blade can rotate around when it comes time to lock it into place with the center strut tenon. So you can mark your blade depth on the handsaw, lock it in a vise, straight edge your piece, and cut down to that line on the blade. A Sharpie might work, or a piece of masking tape works even better. You can see it very clearly. So once you have that done, your holes drilled, your kerf made, you can either get nuts and bolts are way cheaper than cotter pins or cotter, so these are just ones I had laying in the shop. I've used everything from the shop. I have like absolutely nothing in this. And go ahead and assemble those ends. And I'll get that done and get back to you in a second. Okay, so I have my bolts and my blade in place, and now's the time to figure out if you've cut your kerf deep enough to allow the blade to hide, and of course it appears so on mine. And so otherwise you can fix that now before you get any further. So now we've got that done. So now we're going to do a complete reverse. So now we have the cutting edge down, as it will be, and we want to figure out our tenon length and what height we want to go through. So I decided to go up about 2/3 of the way on each side, and of course a lot of this is just eyeballed, and then another length of board, and I cut it about 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch shorter than this distance in between, so when you pull it together it puts a squeeze and tightens this blade up. Now once I did that, I marked it on one end and then used that to mark the other end exactly in the same spot, and I used the piece itself to mark on each side where it's going to go so I can find center for my dowel. And this is just a piece of 1/2 inch dowel. This is like a $1.50 at the hardware store, or you might have some laying around, or an old paper towel holder, whatever. So once you do that, you find center of your strut, and the way to do that is to mark with a straight edge from corner to corner, and that gives you direct dead center. Now either with a 1/2 inch spade bit you can drill that, or a 1/2 inch Forstner bit works the best. That way it only goes the depth, and a Forstner bit looks like so. Us carpenter and cabinet makers use them all the time, and that way it doesn't hollow out farther into the lumber itself or have tear out. It's a nice clean channel. So do that on each end, and the depth of the Forstner is about 3/8 of an inch, so a piece of 3/4 dowel will give you equal distance on each piece. And I use waterproof super glue. It holds up the best in weather. So once those are set on each end, then you transfer and find center of where you marked your tenon, and you can use the same principle marking from corner to corner, and that gives you direct center. Drill that depth. Now we're ready to lock it in. So there we go with that piece. Now for the center, or the tightening device, I used a piece of paracord, and I cut a chunk of tenon a little bit longer than the distance from the top of the strut to the top of the handle, so it'll give it more tension down, and then drilled 2 holes at the same depth as where I drilled my hole for here, which was 5/8 from the top. So I drilled 2 holes 5/8 from the top, like so, on each side. Then I ran my paracord through one handle, through here, and then put a V-trough in at the 5/8 mark, like a knock on a bow. So now that will accept the paracord. And you pull that on there. Okay, so there we go. And first you find center so you have equal tension. I'll bring this up a bit. There we go. And the same principle on that with the doweling. center, center, and there you go. So now you just twist her up, and it pulls all the tension on the blade. Got off center just a little bit, but who cares? Anyway, you get the idea. There you go. So I hope that helps you. It's fun to make, and if you're any kind of skilled woodcrafter or woodworker, it takes 20 minutes tops, and it's pretty cool. So hope it helps you. We'll talk to you later. Thanks for watching.